Greetings, Star Trek Fleet Commanders. I am the Angry Rhino. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. So here, third and final installment of loop prioritization main events. It's going to be the mid-20s to high 30s. And with these numbers, there's a little bit of overlap. Like, it's not just high 30s, maybe 40 as well. But maybe like 40 has their foot on this one and in the last one I did. So don't, what's the word? Don't try to fit or stick directly to this. You can mesh some of the two together. Or make up your own. And this is most likely my final video in loop prioritization. I think I've covered it fairly extensively. Should have the general idea by now. And I was able to unlock Archer over the weekend, so for most of this week anyway, at least 2 videos, I think, on testing and demonstrating the abilities of Archer as captain as we move into the final week of, or final weekend, event spend event. Event spend event? Material spend event for Archer. You can see if you want that extra loot on the Xindi ship. Or I guess really if you want to tier him up also. Which we'll see if his officer ability is really worth anything. Alright. As I said, loop prioritization main events, mid-20s to high 30s. Going to stick with the bottom, or start with the bottom as in the lowest or least amount of priority in my opinion. Monaveen can't be built until level 40. You can start getting the blueprints at 38 if your alliance has the right territories. So maybe around 37, you're making sure that you're really out there and you're going after that isogen. So you have enough isogen emulsion to trade in for Monaveen parts. But other than that, that's it for this level. Freebooters / ship parts. Really not worth doing. Either one really isn't worth doing like specific grinds for pre-40. Because you don't refine broken ship parts. There are 3-star ship parts. They are only common ship parts, which means you can use Latinum for them. Also, they're in the little boxes you get from killing the hostiles. And freebooters, well, I think there is at least one system for like 38s or something. You know, there's just not that much reward. You can't do the swarm sweeps or the faction sweeps until like 38-ish. But I'm thinking that maybe you would really go, you probably end up being 40 by the time you get to them anyway. Because I think there's some Meridian and Isogen researchers you should probably go after first. Get that Monaveen. And it's going to take a minute to build up those export credits. I did move Swarm up to 9. So Monaveen 11, Freebooters 10, Swarms 9. The ship itself, either Franklin, really isn't worth grinding out. It's not worth going after all the parts and putting parts and materials on the ship, because the only benefit from killing the ship is, from building and tearing up the ship is it's designed to kill swarms. But once you get to 38, as I did just say, that it will take you some time to build up the credits, that's when you can do swarm sweep. But again, it is late. It is 38, maybe it's even 39. But still, you can wait a few levels, just either not do it or just stick with what you got. Because the dailies are just kill the swarm. It doesn't matter what ship you use. With some of these lower deckers, you really should be able to kill some level of these swarms. The 32s, absolutely. Once you get to the 35s and the 37s and 38s, they're going to be a little harder. But again, in my day, we didn't have Tendy. We didn't have Mariner. We didn't have all the other assholes that are on the lower decks. We had Pike, Moreau, Talon. That's all we had. We didn't even have Kath. Now you have Kath. You can use Kath. Or you can use Data, some of these other guys. You're a lot better equipped to skip the swarm loop more than I was. And these biominerals, as you can see here, not much benefit from the biominerals and the biomaterials. Yes, there's two different ones. One is more Franklin centric, and the other is more Franklin A centric. And the hostiles, I guess. The 32 swarms is really where the Franklin stops, and the 35 swarms is really where the Franklin A is supposed to pick up. About where your level is. But I just say there's really not much benefit at all, if there's any, other than these biominerals and biomaterials, to really engage with the loop. Cube, same thing I've been saying all along. Crew bonus are way too high. You're not going to get the strength. Cutting beam is weak as shit. It's going to be hard to grind with. The G3 epics are good, I think. They're good. And they're easy to get, as far as I'm concerned. I was able to get 2 G3 epics. I went with the Augur and I went with the D4. I mean, at least initially anyway, around 34. I thought it was fairly easy back then. It's got to be even easier now. So, why go that hard for the Borg Cube? You can do a few researches. I don't know what's going on. Keep touching my hand and I don't know if it's burn or something. Ugh. But the Borg Cube, it just see a lot of benefit. I barely see the benefit at high levels. There's not going to be much benefit at low levels. You can build it at 28. I do suggest building it, and you might as well just really slow play it. Get you some of the currency and just maybe do one of the chest pulls daily, if you even do any. But you probably should get started in it a little bit. Just don't do that much with it. I think the same can say for the Zindi. So Zindi 7, Cube 8. Again, the Zindi, they're very new. There's not that much fleshed out about it. There's not even much, let's say, other researches and items that can aid you in your fight for, let's say, lower player or a free-to-play player. Because it's new, most of that, the favors, are only going to be had by spenders. Well, that's the idea. The new things are going to make them the new more money. New feature, more money. Or new money, I guess. Later on down the road, we might see a few things and make it a little easier, but that will be some time. So, in the low levels, don't worry about it too much. NX01, I mean, you're not even going to get... Honestly, you'd probably be able to level up to 40 before you can even... Because what is it, like 200 days? I think you could start pulling the NX01 shards at level 25. So 200 days... In 200 days, you should be at level 40, I think, if I have the understanding of the economy correct. It shouldn't take you any more than 6 months to get to the high 30s, if not 40. Voyager's going to be number 6. Scouts as well. Probably mainly on the Scouts because they are hard to kind of go after. It's kind of hard to hunt Scouts because you don't know when they're going to be up. You do it in the Voyager land, you go to the system, you click the activation button, and they show up. You know, you go to some of these faction systems and looking for the Scouts. Are they up? Don't know. Yes, there are. You can get a bunch of artifacts, but the problem is if your artifact building isn't high enough, you won't be able to tier up these artifacts that much. So while it is worth doing, it's not worth engaging a lot of time in. Again, can aid some older loops. A lot of the research is level locked, like I said before. I'm still level locked out of some of these researches, which is kind of stupid because mine is maxed. So build the Voyager at 34. You are going to want to do your Hirogen. What are they, like Hirogen Elite Hunters or something, to get the Hirogen Relics. So you can pull your Voyagers. Number 6 is going to be Jem'Hadar. I did think about pushing this one a little further down on the list. Partly because the Armadas start at 35. And all you got is uncommon. Or the Armada level is 35, meaning they suggest you started at level 35. The epics and the rares, the rares are 41 and the epics are 42. Again, suggested level, but you could probably do if you, like, say 39, maybe 38, depending on where you have your G3 epics. But it's tough going at first. You really have to get into the loop more for you to see the ease of it and the rewards being like, oh, this is worth it. So in the beginning, it takes you time to get that Bajoran loop engine rolling. Sure, that makes any sense. Because I did say, need to fuel that Bajoran loop, because it's you going and killing the hostiles, getting the antimatter units, which can be turned into Bajoran credits for directives. And again, plenty of systems are grinded. You do have several of the smaller systems that are just systems with hostiles in them. Not even armadas too. So it's like there's more hostiles in there because there's no armadas. Finally moved the Mantis. Let's say Jem'Hadar was 5, Voyager 6. Okay, and I finally moved the Mantis down on this list. Mantis is now 4. Partly because, as the theme is here, getting started in these loops is a hard part. I mean, you want to because, Syndicate XP. You want Syndicate XP. It affects every loop in the game, really. But the ship is just, it's garbage. It's terrible. It just doesn't have the cargo. And they haven't even addressed that. They refuse to make the Mantis's cargo bigger. There's even a research for it. Guess what? It's still too small. Whatever, y'all. But anyway, build the Mantis at 33. I have no idea how you actually get the blueprints. I think I bought mine. Stupid that was, because not only was it a pain in the ass, the ship was terrible because it had no cargo space, but the shit was broke as shit. Broke. Like, Apex is not even spawning. It's terrible. But again, you want to take some time and get into the loop. Now, what some people do, me included, I don't even use the Mantis to get the Actian Venom. I use my Talios. I do 5, Tal, Giorgio. If you got Tal and you got Giorgio, you can use Nero if you so choose. You're not going to get burning in the first round, so there's that. But you will get the burning in the following rounds. But it is really about the cargo size. If your ship, G3 Rare or G3 Uncommon or G3 Epic, if it has more cargo than the Mantis, you can absolutely try it, because the Actians have high hull but low damage. So they're not really kicking out any damage. So you can use Tal to whittle their asses down, and then you'll take your ships, they may have a little bit weaker shots, will deliver the final blow, because I don't think Tal can actually take you all the way down, because it is like 5% of your current hull. So it's like he can't even really get to zero. It'll be your weapons doing the shot that gets it to zero. I did say build at 33. But, alright, yeah, Dome of the Mantis. Moving on. Stella, move the Stella up to number 3. A lot of research to get started on. Some of it is kind of meh, but some of it's really good, especially for a, let's say, free-to-play in the high 20s to even mid-30s. A lot of efficiency research in there. Yes, there are others in other places, but some of them are level locked. These are some of the first ones that you can get at this level. I guess there is the territory ones as well, but these Stella ones were some of the other ones. And some good Armada research is there at the end with critical chance or critical damage or whatever, and piercings and mitigations and stuff. Not just Eclipse Armadas, but Armadas as a whole. Can be somewhat fun, I thought. Of course, again, back in my day, what were the loops that were out here? Faction Reputation, Borg, Swarm, Stella. What is that? 4? Is that 4 loops? Out of the 11 that are on here now. Yeah. So I understand why people think it's a lot of loops. Because just a short time ago, at least it feels like a short time ago, only 3-4 years ago, there were like 2 specialty ships. You had the Vidar and the Franklin, and then here comes the Stella, so there's 3. Maybe that's why I thought it was fun. You go kill some hostiles, you get whatever stupid ass currency that is. You get some rep, you get some directives, then you get all your buddies, and you go kick the shit out of really big armadas. But because of the research of the Stellas, you're doing extra shots and extra damage and more critical hits. It did seem kind of fun at the time. Now, I do kind of get how there's so many other things, and some of the coolness of the Stella has been diluted because it's no longer new. But you can build the ship at 27. There is a way to get it for free. I don't remember what it is. I think it's a mission. Or maybe something close to what the Botany Bay is. It's like a daily claim of like 5 shards or something. However, get that free one first from the Outlaw faction store. Get that free one first. You can get a second one, and I do recommend doing that. You can get a second one from the event store. But don't get the one from the event store first. The code will read that you have a Stella and not give you a free one. And if you wanted a second one, you would have to pay currency for it. So get the free one first. What was I going to say? I think some of why it was fun, it was, you get this currency, you get that currency, you put this currency on, and then you put it all on, and then you scrap, and then you get more currency so you can do this research and do that research. It did seem kind of fun at the time anyway. Now it seems to be like overdone, I guess. But since at this level there aren't that many loops, maybe beneficial to get started in this one. Kind of a practice for things to come, maybe. And hopefully you can try to enjoy it. Borg number 2. Tearing up the Vidar will get you a Talios. As you can see, build 25 and 35. Vidar at 25. Talios at 35. You can get a good amount of faction credit from the Vidar anyway. I mean, I like the Talios, so sticking to the Vidar here. The Vidar refinery is somewhat smaller. The Talios is meant to be a big improvement on it. Yes, the faction credits are a lot less. The independent credits are a lot less, but you know what? You gotta crawl before you can walk. Alright? You gotta tear up the Vidar before you can go after the Talios. But luckily, you just get the Talios from a mission. Once you get your max Vidar, you should get a mission that can get you the Talios. And I don't think grinding Borg probes in a Vidar was that hard. Did wish it had more cargo bay, but Pike Moreau Talon was a very good crew to use. 5 Chen Talon was a good crew to use. I think Pike Moreau Chen even worked to a certain extent. Talon, I think, did work better because the kinetic weapons were a little bit bigger. And you had 5. She works to a certain extent. 7 of 11. It was doubling your shots, right? So you put like 7 in 5, and then whatever other Borg to get, I guess, a command Borg, right? Because engineer, science, command will get you max synergy, and you get a bunch of extra shots. And the Vidar, its ship ability is do damage against Borg, so you're gonna get a lot of damage there. Again, to me, it felt like some of that stuff was fun, but it's because, I didn't also have to go get Mantis shit, or Jem'Hadar shit, or Voyager shit, or Zindi shit, and Cube shit, and Freebooter shit, and Mona Visa. Like, I didn't have to do that way back then, so I kind of like the Vidar a little more, because I remember the fun times. And then, as always, faction reputation / ship parts, more survey ship part related, is what's number one. Most important, since that it's how you get the ships. You gotta get your Saladin or your Centurion or your Bortas or your D3. Which faction ships to get at these lower levels? Definitely get. Well, I mean, it's tough anymore because you get the 26 ships at some point, max them, and when you scrap them at 34, you get a bunch of primes. Because way back when, primes used to cost material. So the first ones were G4 credits, and the first time you could get G4 materials, first time you could get G4 materials was by scrapping your level 26 ships at level 34. Was very cool back in the day. Some of it's diluted, but you kind of got to get them. So I think you definitely want to get to 26 ships. Maybe you skip the 28 ships. Get you a rare at 30 or 32 or whatever. Maybe don't get the same type as the epic you want. Right? Because if you want an Enterprise, don't get a Burrell. If you want a Augur, don't get an Intrepid. And such. Alright. But I think that is going to do it for this video. So glad to kind of be done, It just did seem like a lot to do. But let's summarize this. Loop prioritization main events for the mid-20s to high 30s. 1. Faction rep, as always. 2 was Borg. 3 was Stella. 4 Mantis. 5 Jem'Hadar. 6 Voyager. 7 Zindi. 8 Cube. 9 Swarms. 10 Freebooters. 11 Mona Veen. Some of those aren't worth really getting into, until 40. But it does kind of help to have this ship and get started, get that initial thing out the way. Comment below. There's so many questions that I think I would have to, start some of these discussions off, because I think I went about this list as more my memory of the loops. But that was, that's 4 years ago. 4 years ago. Well, I guess 3 years and 11 months ago. So I have fonder memory of the Vidar and the Borg because I didn't have to do anything else except for Reputation and Stella. You didn't really have that much other shit to do. Now you have a lot of shit to do. So doing the Borg and doing the Stella, I had much fonder memories of that. So therefore, that probably does affect where they are on my list. For those of you that have been in these lower levels more recently or are there, does it still feel fun to be this level 25 of this 30 and do some of these Stellar Armadas? Is it still fun? And the Borg stuff? Do you have a few things available to you that I didn't? So I'm thinking maybe it should be just as fun. I don't know. I kind of hope so. Anyway, that's going to do it, I think. No need to ask you more questions. That was kind of a long question, wasn't it? But be sure to like and subscribe. I am the Angry Rhino. Shields up, Commanders.